you doing? How you doing?
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Getting ready for this holiday weekend coming up. Have a lot of things planned. I know a lot of people out there probably do too. And that's why I think it's great we're able to set this up before the holiday weekend.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Thank you so much for inviting me back.
Oh, of course, we have the Queen of Humble Nation. How could we not invite you back? We have so much to talk about it. Who else are we going to talk about it with? We have to talk to the Queen of Humble. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, the Queen of Humble Nation, Rebecca. And so excited to have you back. And there's just so much we got to talk about here.
There really is. And actually, I just got off of the Golden Apes spaces, and a lot of really amazing stuff was shared there. And so I have a lot more to share with you than I initially thought. So that was fun.
Oh, that's incredible. All right. Well, let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing started. So let's start off with crypto. I feel like there's a lot of things going on in the crypto space, not just, in regards to Humbl, but overall in the space. And I know Humbl's really pushing, their ETFs, which, we can talk about in a minute. We have DigiBuy. We have everything going on with the SEC, and hopefully we get regulatory approval here in the US so we can start having crypto ETFs and, in our own exchanges. And, we see all the rumors with Kathy Woods wanting to start her own ETF, and just the adoption of crypto. And I know on our first interview, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and check out that first interview that me and Rebecca did. That was one of the greatest interviews in regards to understanding what Humbl is, what they do, who Brian Foote is, why the technology is important, things that they're going to do now and in the future. Great interview. But there's so many things going on in the crypto world, and, especially in regards to how Humbl's trying to take advantage of that, how they run their blockchain, so many things we can talk about there. But, I'll go ahead and give you the handle here, what's going on there, and then as it pertains to Humbl.
I'm really hoping the United States will get on board with the crypto space. I know that Texas is trying really hard. The governor of Texas was talking about how he would like to adopt people being able to use crypto in the state of Texas. I know that Ted Cruz spoke in front of Congress. Remember when Biden's infrastructure bill was coming forward, and they slipped in a little piece in there about crypto regulation, and Ted Cruz said, he said something like this statistic: only 5% of us here even understand what crypto is. I think we need to better understand, bring in some experts and understand the space before we start regulating it. So that was a huge step in the right direction, because that's true. And unfortunately, Gary Gensler is involved, and he understands crypto. He's the new head of the SEC, and he taught crypto and blockchain at MIT. In fact, you can Google Gary Gensler blockchain, and his online courses come up that he taught. So he understands that space. And for those of you who don't know, Brian Foote also has a certification in blockchain and crypto from MIT. So that works well in our favor. And so and also with the Humbl Financial ETXs, Calvin Waite is constantly improving that space, constantly making it leaner and more efficient. And eventually, when we get that down to one click, where you can just one click invest on Humbl Financial, that's when revenue is really going to pour in. And we're already in 161 countries with Humbl Financial, and those countries know crypto better than we do here in the United States in terms of they're using it. And like Singapore, for example. Singapore wants their entire country to go blockchain and crypto. They think that crypto may outpace their own national currency. So that's a really big deal. And ARK Investing has talked about crypto, the fintech space anyways, financial technology, outpaces growth a country's GDP oftentimes. So there's so much growth potential there. And, of course, DigiBuy is in Humbl Financial, and they are 40 times faster than Bitcoin, and you can get Digibyte right now for like 6 cents. So Digibyte's growth potential, it's through the roof. I definitely own Digibyte. I love Digibyte. It's decentralized and it's its own blockchain, and so I may have that wrong. They use blockchain and it's decentralized. So I like that they're in Humbl Financial. That's a huge plus.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and you're right. You're starting to see it around the world because you mentioned Singapore wanting to be basically a cashless society and just do everything, on the blockchain and everything. And you see it around the world. I mean, everyone's, waiting for El Salvador to, that date. I think it's supposed to be late September, for them to, officially make it, a federal tender, switch out their Federal Reserve. And so you see what's going on with, El Salvador. You see what's going on with Canada and Europe, a lot of the European exchanges. And, obviously in Canada, they've already, allowed their institutional investors, their wealth managers, their pension plans to already invest in crypto. They allow the crypto ETFs. And so you're seeing it around the world. If anything, the U.S., like in many cases, we're kind of lagging when it comes to, certain things. This is definitely one of those departments, but I think we're going to get on board. I agree with you. Gary Gensler, having taught a class at, MIT on blockchain. And by the way, for those of you guys who don't know what MIT is, you're like, what's MIT? Go ahead and Google that. Let's just say you got to be really smart to go to MIT. We'll just leave it at that. But you're seeing it around the world, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in New Zealand, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in Europe. You're seeing it all around the world, and you're seeing more and more news about it. I mean, there was obviously reports too a few weeks ago. The third richest man in Mexico owns Bitcoin. He's been buying Bitcoin. He's hoarding Bitcoin, and now he's pushing the entire Mexican government to start adopting and allowing Bitcoin and allowing customers who bank with financial institutions in Mexico to actually be able to buy Bitcoin through their, banking providers in Mexico. So basically their version of Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, list goes on, and pushing more institutional adoption in Mexico for that too. And, he brings up the fact that, Mexico could really benefit from adopting something like Bitcoin as a federal tender as well, just like El Salvador did. And then you look at what's going on with countries like Argentina, and, it feels like their currency never stops getting devalued. It feels like it gets devalued on a daily basis. Then you look at what's going on in Afghanistan, which is a great case study for how, amazing crypto and Bitcoin can be. And a lot of people in Afghanistan are actually starting to either buy Bitcoin or use Bitcoin as a means of transaction. And you're seeing what's going on with the currency in Afghanistan, which is a whole separate issue in and of itself. But the point is you're seeing, adoption and a use case for it there. And you just look every single place around the world, and there is either more adoption of blockchain, there is more adoption of crypto, there is more understanding of Bitcoin. You're seeing, even countries in Africa, and you look at what Jack Dorsey is doing with Square, and, and what he's doing with Twitter, and trying to incorporate Bitcoin there and use them as on-ramps for businesses. Jack Dorsey, I think is doing some really remarkable stuff when it comes to the Lightning Network and everything he's trying to do for different countries and different regions of Africa. And so again, you just see it everywhere around the world. And meanwhile, you have people like Michael Saylor that wants to buy like $1 billion in Bitcoin every single quarter. It feels like this guy's becoming a living legend in his own right. He just never stops buying and hoarding Bitcoin. And so we go back to Humbl. And I feel like it is just such an easy app. It's an easy platform to be able to use, especially for businesses and even consumers. And I think you're right. I think we're going to start to see more and more adoption. And hopefully, America, we get that approval here in the U.S. because I think once that happens, I think it's just a game changer for crypto and Bitcoin and, everything around it. And I think one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, could be a company like Humbl, especially with a management team like this.
Yeah, even the city of Miami was wanting people to be able to use Bitcoin to pay their taxes and utilize it there. So we're coming on board slowly but surely. And to be honest with you, Texas surprised me because, being such a conservative state, but they're, the governor's really on board with that. So that's exciting. And you mentioned blockchain. I was very excited to hear this quote. I tweeted it out earlier. Well, MIT, what you're saying, it's like the school you go to for technology and innovation. So the smartest of the smart go to MIT. The movers and the shakers go to MIT. And MIT proclaimed, blockchain has disrupted accepted ways of doing business, and it's here to stay. The world has not seen a shift like this since the telephone or the internet. That's big.
No, I agree. And, to be fair, like, it doesn't help, the case for fiat currency that these governments around the world continue to print more and more money and devalue their own currency at like historical rates. So it's not like they're doing any favors for their own currency. I mean, let's be honest, there is inflation out there in the economy. It doesn't matter, if you ride with the Federal Reserve that believes it's transitory, and now the definition of transitory is coming into question. But again, the Federal Reserve is basically saying a lot of this inflation is transitory. But if you ask the average consumer out there on the street, they're saying it's not transitory, and the price of gas, is really hurting people at the pump. The price of food continues to go up. You still continuously see supply chain issues, and you look at a lot of these ports out there in Asia that send the goods out here to America, and a lot of those ports are shutting down again because of Delta, or they're having supply chain issues because of the Delta variant, among other variants. It feels like there's 100 variants out there in America, like holy crap. But we're still seeing supply chain issues, and that is in part causing more pain when it comes to inflation. And so when you see inflation and consumers saying inflation's here to stay, and then governments continue to print money at an astronomical rate, I think you're going to continue to see that for a bit longer. And you're right. Speaking on Miami, I think the mayor of Miami, I think it is, he is extremely proactive when it comes to crypto, and he basically is saying he wants Miami to be the Bitcoin hub of the country, which I thought was interesting, because now you're seeing Texas say, like you mentioned, like, hey, we should start allowing Texans to be able to pay their taxes and to pay for things, using Bitcoin. Well, Miami mayor, the mayor of Miami, you guys can Google this as well. He's out here saying he wants Miami to be the Bitcoin hub of the country. However, I think this new mayor out here in New York City, I believe, he's saying he wants New York to be the Bitcoin, basically central hub of the country as well. And now you're seeing San Francisco saying, no. We're going to be the central hub of Bitcoin, and we're going to be the most proactive and innovative city when it comes to adopting Bitcoin and adopting all these use cases. And then obviously you see, don't get me started with Dogecoin, but you see what Elon Musk is doing there as well. And I think you're seeing a lot of adoption, and you're seeing a lot of people like actually trying to take progressive steps in it. And like I said, hopefully we get some regulatory approval here, because then in terms of prices of a lot of these cryptos and altcoins and Bitcoin, I think they're going to go through the roof, and we will continue to see more adoption of it. And I'm not saying it's going to replace the US dollar anytime soon, but I am saying you're going to see, cryptos being used as a form of currency, as a form of payment, and as a form of transaction more and more around the world, not just here in America.
Free market enterprise. It's what makes this country great. Let's have it see to shining sea, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm 100% with you on that one. I'm 100% with you. And so that kind of leads us into the crypto ETFs. I've had a lot of people, show me, I think you post a lot of pictures of it. Obviously, if you guys want to know everything you need to know about Humbl, all you got to do is go to Rebecca's Twitter page, and I'm telling you, you'll learn everything you need to learn almost. But these crypto ETFs that Humbl offers on their platform, I think they're very interesting. I like how they're set up, and I like that every single one of them has Digibyte. I like that it's very, easy to use. It's very, easy to understand. It's not like a traditional ETF or a mutual fund that has like 600 equities in there, or, 30, 40, 50 different, cryptos in there. I mean, it's broken down into just like a core few. Most of them have Bitcoin and Ethereum as top holdings, but they all have Digibyte. They all have, some of the more mainstream ones. And I really like the idea of crypto ETFs just as a whole, because I feel like there's a lot of investors out there. It doesn't matter if they're 19 years old or if they're 49 years old and trying to jump on this revolution that you mentioned. This is a revolution that we're seeing, probably the biggest one since the Industrial Revolution. But I feel like a lot of people don't really understand the use cases and how these cryptos work. I get asked this question a lot. Like, Miguel, what's the difference between Polkadot and Uniswap? What is Cardano? What is Solana? What does Ethereum do? What is this? What does that coin do? What is SafeMoon? What is Dogecoin? Like, what do they do? How do they work? What separates this coin from the other coin? And so, going to these crypto ETFs that Humbl offers, I like that they explain some of them. I like the holdings inside these ETFs. I really like what I'm seeing from Humbl when it comes to this specific area.
Is an advantage because they are using people that do know what they're doing. Calvin Waite is an absolute genius. He knows crypto inside and out. And so, they've developed baskets of crypto. So you're really diversifying your crypto portfolio when you invest in Humbl Financial, because each basket has different cryptos and different ratios of crypto in them. So when you go onto the humblpay.com and you look under Humbl Financial and you can click on like buy or sell, it'll say learn more. So you can, when you click the button, say for block 5, and click learn more, then it'll show you the breakdown of what cryptos are in there. And I just have to say that actually not all of them have Digibyte. There's 3 exchanges that Humbl Financial uses at present. They use Coinbase, Binance, and Bittrex. So Coinbase does not trade Digibyte. So if you use Coinbase to load your wallet up, you're not going to be able to trade Digibyte. And I know this sounds confusing. Let me try to break it down for you. I'll tell you about Bittrex because that's the one I use. It just feels more secure to me. So you have to download Google Authenticator, which is a free app from the App Store. And basically, it's going to help make your account more secure, and Bittrex will walk you through what you're going to do with it. So then you go to Bittrex, and you establish an account there, and it takes like 24 hours to settle, and then you can load your wallet with your ATM card, your debit card. So then you go to Humbl Financial, and you can upload your Bittrex wallet. So when you go to click buy on Humbl Financial, when you go to click to buy, say block 5, for example, it'll say, do you want to use Binance or Coinbase or Bittrex? And so you upload whatever wallet you've chosen, whether it's Binance, Coinbase, or Bittrex. But Bittrex will allow you to use the Digibyte ones. Coinbase doesn't. And I will tell you this tip. There's going to be like these really long passcodes that Bittrex will give you. Write those down and don't lose them. Don't lose your key and don't lose your passcodes, because that's like the combination lock to get into your crypto. So I bought a FireSafe bag off the internet, and I put things like my passcode in there, so that I never lose that key, because I never want to lose access to my crypto. But there's tutorials on Humbl Financial. If you click Humbl Financial, there's a link there for tutorials that can explain to you how to do it. But basically, Humbl has taken the liberty of trading these different baskets of crypto for you. And if you choose the active products, those are using an algorithm that Calvin Waite came up with. It's a proprietary program where when the market dips, the trading bots that he created will buy for you. And then when it spikes up and the charts say, it's a high, they'll sell, and they'll keep adjusting those baskets of crypto so that you get more and more returns.
I really like that. I really do like those trading bots that you just referenced. I really like the idea of that. because it basically puts it into like an algo's hand, and the algo, were short for algorithm. The algos are basically created by people that understand, these market dynamics a lot better than the average investor and the average consumer does. And I feel like one of the ways a lot of people lose money in crypto is they try to like become a day trader or a swing trader in crypto, and they don't really understand how to trade to begin with, but all of a sudden they're going to start to try to trade cryptos and stuff. Basically, they do the opposite of what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is buy low, sell high. But, a lot of people, when they start day trading and swing trading for the first time, they do the opposite. They buy high, sell low, buy more high, sell low. So I really do like those trade bots, and I like the tutorials on how they explain how they work, what triggers a buy, what triggers a sell. I actually really like that part because it kind of allows investors to not only be able to do it more effectively and more efficiently, but it shows them like how these algos are built and why it's a good time to sell at this point and why it's a good time to buy at this point. And it uses different type of like metrics and on-chain analytics. So I really like that. And I hopefully we get to see more, more stuff like that. But I really like that. And that kind of actually leads us into one of the things I know you really wanted to talk about, I really wanted to talk about. But in regards to blockchain and things that Humbl can and will do in the future, I agree with you 100%, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000,000%. There is not a number to fully to fully show how much I am in support of this. And you've talked about this and mentioned this, a lot. But it's the potential in real estate. It's the potential in real estate transactions. It's how much real estate, one of the oldest and original asset classes in the entire world, how that can be impacted by moving real estate transactions onto a blockchain and allowing investors to invest, buy, sell, real estate around the world, different properties, and being able to do that on a blockchain and remove so much of this just like backlogging paperwork that just takes 1,000,000 years sometimes, and being able to do it all digitally, moving real estate more and more digital. I am extremely excited for this type of potential and the things that Humbl, and other companies around the world, how they can have an impact on the real estate market, and how I think real estate can and will change over the next 10, 15, 20 years as we start to push it more and more into a digital verse, so to speak. Can we talk about that one? Because I think that is such a huge potential for anyone and everyone involved who is going to be one of the first movers into this space.
Yeah, I think your listeners are really going to be interested in this because this is definitely the area I'm most excited about. And maybe that's because, real estate's expensive. And anymore, you have to have a 2-income family to afford a decent place to live. So first, let me start off with this quote from the CEO of Franklin Templeton. And she says, blockchain technology will be hugely disruptive. Eventually, allowing everyday people to place small investments in otherwise inaccessible assets like major real estate projects. So earlier this year on a conference call, I heard Brian Foote say that there will come a point in time with tokenization where you will be able to own, say, a little piece of a winery in France. And that was like, I was trying to wrap my head around it, and so I've been studying it since then. Imagine this. I was talking to Papa Humbl, which everyone should follow him on Twitter. He's Money in Politics. And he was saying, most of us who own a home were cash poor. So when your car breaks down or an appliance goes out and you suddenly have to cough up $2,000, most people either don't have it, and they certainly can't just take the equity out of their home. But now imagine, with tokenization, you only have to own, say, 51% of your home to live in it. And then you have all that liquidity now freed up. And you can sell your 51%, or let's say you own 60%, and suddenly I need some money. I could sell 5%. Get some cash and be more liquid, but I still own the majority of my home. So imagine for the middle class, if to live in a home you only had to own, say, 51%, but you still own it. It's not like rent where you're throwing it away in a sense, where you're not building equity. If you tokenize an asset with blockchain and you own 51%, you still own the home, and you can get your 51% back, whether you sell a portion of it or all of it and whatnot. Now, all of a sudden, a police officer, my son's a police officer, so my heart is with, first responders who risk their life every day, but really just don't make enough as far as I'm concerned for what they give to society. Now all of a sudden they have a lot of options. If they only have to own 51% of a home to have one, they can have a much nicer home and have liquidity.
I really like that. I really like that. I've actually never thought about it from that perspective, and I might have to follow him on Twitter, because that actually does make a lot more sense to me, to be able to basically leverage your home so you can have more liquidity, and then you can buy, I want to call it shares, but you can buy the remainder that you end up liquidating so you can have more cash in whatever moment you need. You can end up buying that later, but investors can come in and say, I really like your property. I think your property is going to go up in value. And instead of you having to go to a traditional financial institution or pull a mortgage out of your home or doing something like that, you can basically have, the average investor come in and say, yeah, I'll buy 5% of your house because I think that's going to go up in value. And, you need the cash now, and I want to make that investment. And I think that would allow, and I really like the term cash poor. I haven't heard that one since business school, but I really like that, because there are a lot of Americans that own a huge, portion of their home, or their have a huge equity in their home. But you're right, they are cash poor, and this would allow them to have, that kind of cash that they need a lot quicker and a lot sooner. And instead of having to owe that money to again, a traditional financial institution like a bank, you would basically just be shareholders, so to speak, with another individual who is invested, in your property, and wants to give you that cash, and in return they want to see some of that upside because they believe your property will appreciate in value. I really like that a lot.
Oh, the opportunities that would give the working class to have a home that they don't currently have right now. And not to mention all the paperwork and the fees that are going to be greatly reduced, because you're just doing a person-to-person transaction and eliminating that layer of the bank. Like right now, say if you want to sell your house, 6% goes out the window. I mean, with blockchain, I bet you we're going to be paying 1% to 2% maybe. And you get your cash immediately versus having to wait on the bank to decide whether or not you're worthy of getting a home equity line to pay for those medical bills or to replace the roof on the house. And I just think it's a new age is here. So when Brian says we're going to be the Amazon of digital assets, it's not just tokenizing a home, Miguel. It's owning part of a yacht. It's owning part of a winery in France, part of anything, even music, film. We were talking about how, when Brian talks about the second shelf life that we can give sports, music, film that have already happened. So let's imagine Johnny Cash, right? You can buy this NFT of him saying, hello, I'm Johnny Cash. You can own a fraction of that moment, and that Johnny Cash's estate will probably make way more money off of NFTs, which is basically a token. It's the same thing. So a token, buying a token of something, it's like an NFT in and of itself. So you can tokenize or create NFTs for anything, whether it's this modern restaurant in New York is going to sell NFTs so that will reserve you a place to even come to the restaurant and reserve you a table. So I was doing some research this morning on this, and it was said like this. You basically, you're owning a part of something, and you can, let's say you go to that restaurant 4 or 5 times, and then you want to sell your NFT. Well, you can. so you can make a profit and move on. And yeah, there's just endless opportunities for it.
I'm a huge believer in NFTs. It took me a while to, wrap my head around it. By the way, I think you really gave the best explanation on NFTs, on the first interview we did, where when you gave like the Harry Potter reference, where like, it's like a 4 or 5 second clip, but it's like a moment, that Harry Potter reference. That resonated with me, but that's probably because I'm a millennial and Harry Potter was big to my generation and my age group. Shout out to all the millennials out there, okay? Sorry if any boomers are offended by that. Just kidding. But that really resonated with me. And I think another example you used was sports. And you mentioned how, like, if your son is playing Little League, for example, and he's at bat and the ball's getting pitched to him and he takes that swing and he swings at the ball, that moment right there, that moment in time, that can also be an NFT. And I think those two examples to me made it real clear, obviously, because, Harry Potter resonates with me in my generation, but I also have a son who plays baseball. And I look at moments like that and I'm like, man, that would make a really cool NFT. And that is something that if I had it as an NFT, I would want to own that. I would want to have that. So I do think there is a place for NFTs. I think it's going to continue to be a very growing, space and industry. I know for a lot of people that, again, they're still trying to get their heads around NFTs, trying to get their heads around crypto. But you're right. It's some growing pains. This is a new revolution. A lot of people are trying to get adjusted to it. But, the way investing is happening now, again, and I'm pretty sure you see it every day. These 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, coming into the marketplace now as investors, they're not like investors of 30, 40, 50 years ago that were told, oh, just put your money in a traditional IRA, just put it into a mutual fund, which is a basket of stocks, and this money manager, this portfolio manager on Wall Street that you never heard of before, seen before, he'll charge you like 2, 3, 4, 5% a year to manage your money, and you just keep putting all your money in there, and he invested in like 3,000 stocks. You don't know what the stocks do. You never heard of them, but, your mutual fund compounds 7% a year, and hopefully you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 99 years old or something like that. Investing has changed, and the opportunity to invest, side note, I have to give it to Robinhood. They have definitely changed the world when it's come to investing, whether people want to admit it or not, like it or not. Robinhood has definitely had an impact on the average investor that just wants to invest for the first time but doesn't know how, doesn't know where to go. And now I think moving forward, I think as it pertains to crypto and it pertains to Bitcoin and it pertains to NFTs and what Humbl's offering and a lot of other fintech companies out there in the world are offering, like, I think investing is going to continue to change. It's going to continue to be more accessible. I think it's going to continue to be more and more mainstream as opposed to just putting it in a traditional 401k and never looking at it and never knowing where your money's going. And now the ability to invest in real estate, I know for years it felt like and you mentioned the middle class and the average American. The middle class, the average American that, just doesn't have that money. For years, they were kind of excluded from investing in real estate, or at least they felt that way, because if you didn't have the 20% down for a down payment, the 15% down for a down payment, you couldn't really invest in real estate. And it's not like high school or community colleges say, here's how you can invest in real estate and become a real estate millionaire. You know what I mean? That financial literacy wasn't there for the average, American either. And so I think now being able to use, blockchain and use it as an on-ramp for real estate and for the average person to be able to invest in real estate, properties around the world, and not necessarily needing $200,000 or $100,000 or $50,000 in order to take part and be in that marketplace. I think that's huge, not just for Americans, but for people around the world. If someone in Japan wants to invest in my house in Vegas, they would be able to do so, and so I think we're going to continue to see that. And I think the adoption of not only crypto and Bitcoin is here to stay and accelerate in the future, but I think you're going to continue to see it in more applications, whether it's real estate, whether it's whether it's NFTs. And I think this is just a really important moment in time, especially if you're young. Like if you're 19, 20, 25, you really need to be all over this, because this is like a once in a generational type of moment where we're in the early stages of, just the world changing and investing, habits changing and consumer behaviors, changing. I'm really excited for this moment in time we're in. And I really do believe Humble can be one of those lead dogs in the race. And I really think, like you said, they really could become the Amazon of assets. And I feel like the future world that we're going into, I think Humble's going to play a huge role in that. And I think people need to keep that in mind when they're investing in Humble, or they're investing in NFTs, or they're investing in crypto.
Right. And one of the most popular NFT spaces, well, the most popular NFT space or category are sports. So our partnership with Athletes First really shouldn't be underestimated. And again, that second shelf life. I mean, did you ever think, boy, if Ted Williams and Babe Ruth were alive today, how much more money they would have made? Well, that second shelf life, those moments where Ted Williams hits a home run or Babe Ruth does, you now can create an NFT of that moment and generate revenue in perpetuity for creating that NFT. And also, there's categories like gaming, for example. That's not to be underestimated either. I mean, there's a lot of money in video gaming. So creating NFTs where, like Pokemon, for example, right? That's all the rage. It creates billions a year where these kids are going around and collecting all the Pokemons. Well, imagine in the gaming industry, okay, we want to collect NFTs. And you can virtually go somewhere on a map and collect them, or you can do it in person. And then these young kids, they're swapping them and they're exchanging them all over the world, like baseball trading cards, only it's digital.
That's true. And I think that's another huge, just massive opportunity. There's just so many endless opportunities here. And I know we could talk for hours, because then we can really when we go into esports, and then we could talk about what's going on with the metaverse and everything Facebook's trying to create with the metaverse. We can go into augmented reality. We can go into virtual reality. And esports, you said it, and people need to be cognizant of it and aware of it. It is one of the fastest growing industries in the entire world. There's a lot of fast growing industries in the world, but esports remains, one of the fastest growing industries, not just of the past decade, but probably the decade ahead of us as well. People becoming professional esports athletes, however you feel about the word athlete being thrown in there, that's how they're labeled and they're characterized. They're an esports athlete. Okay, I'll give them that. I'm not going to fight them on that one, but that's a growing career field. That is a growing, industry. People are legitimately getting paid, and they're getting paid well. I'm shocked sometimes. I saw the Fortnite, was it League of Legends or Fortnite tournament that happened a few years back, and the kid got like 1.7 million to be the winner of, I believe it was like the Fortnite or something like that, Call of Duty tournament, whatever it was. Someone can go ahead and Google it. But that is a growing industry here to stay as well. And if you can apply NFTs to that, and you can do it it doesn't matter if it's a Pokemon or, something else, another subset. I mean, that's just another huge revenue stream, as well. And I unequivocally believe people would pay a lot of money for those NFTs. And then we even saw, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but I saw something like there was a 12-year-old that made like $400,000 creating and selling NFTs recently. That's another thing people can go ahead and Google. But I mean, this is a growing industry. I feel like NFTs are kind of getting underestimated and overlooked in some regards, because this industry is not only here to stay, but it is exploding on the scene right now. There is a lot of money being transacted in NFTs today.
And it's integrated perfectly with ticketing. So when the Global Newswire came out for Humbl, it said Humbl Tickets aims to partner with subsidiaries like Monster Creative to give users great fan experiences and commemorative ticket NFTs. I mean, you've seen Monster Creative and all the movie trailers they do. Let's just imagine the killer moving digital images. So, okay, UGA, right? I'm a UGA fan. Imagine the mascot, on the ticket. That's just going to be amazing, the different collectible tickets that you can make. And here's the thing. people are so upset about NFTs, like let's get peer-to-peer. How do you think we're going to get people into the app, the NFTs, right? You're at a college football game, you're at an NFL game, and they talk about, here, go onto your Humbl Pay app and look at these different NFTs, and then they see while they're in there, oh wow, I can do contactless payment for half the fees of PayPal. I can I'll be able to transfer money for half the fees of PayPal internationally instantly, whereas PayPal takes days. So that's how we're going to get people into the app, is through NFTs. And the NFTs are going to generate billions of revenue. Well, eventually the world. It's $1 billion, billions a year industry. So we're going to generate a lot of pure profit from ticketing and NFTs, whereas peer-to-peer is a very, very, very slim profit margin. So you get people into ticketing and NFTs. They're going to be really excited about them, the Gen Z and millennials. We're going to be generating a lot of revenue, and it's basically marketing for your peer-to-peer piece. So it's really genius.
It really is. I'm telling you, like, the more we talk about Humbl, the more we talk about NFTs, the more we talk about cryptos and the adoption of crypto around the world, and the mayor of Miami, and what's going on in Texas, what's going on in Singapore, what's going on in El Salvador, what's going on in Mexico, how Canada and Europe have already given regulatory approval. Again, I just feel like we're in such, like, the early stages, the dawn, like the very precipice of, what is going to be the new norm when it comes to investing, when it comes to transacting, when it comes to payments, when it comes to transactions and all of that. And I just feel like when I look at Humbl, I just see so much potential, and, let's go ahead and pivot here. But then when I go online, I feel like people, who were once saying this is long-term, I feel like all of a sudden, if the stock goes down for like more than a day, or the stock goes down for 2 hours, everyone wants to jump ship, and now everyone's upset. And I just don't understand that part. What's going on here with the investor base? Because I feel like when you and me talk about this for 30, 40 minutes, and we did on the first interview, we see so much potential with the company. We see what Brian Foote is doing. We see the technology they're creating. We see all of the financial instruments that they're creating and want to create, all of the different avenues, all of the different onsets that they're pursuing. And I feel like sometimes, maybe it's just me. Well, I know it's not just me, but I look at some of these investors and I feel like I'm not sure if they're just not thinking long term, or if they're just very frustrated with things that are happening short term, and sometimes they're missing, the trees from the forest kind of analogy. What's going on there?
I think a lot of it is people are stressed out. This pandemic has really made people very stressed out. A lot of people are having financial stress. And when you need money, and maybe you've invested money that you really needed to pay bills, and when it doesn't move as quickly as you'd like, you get impatient. You sell early. It's a newbie mistake. We have a lot of new investors because of COVID. But I think that what this is going to illustrate for so many people, what Warren Buffett says, which is, investing is trading money from the impatient to the patient, plain and simple. And also, not having a long-term focus. And I know I say this, I tweet this out a lot, but it bears repeating. Amazon went through this, okay? Their stock went from $113 to $6. Can you imagine? People are complaining that we went from $7 to below $1. Amazon went from $113 to $6. And Jeff Bezos said everything inside the company was going great. And he says the company is not the stock, and the stock is not the company. So people need to understand that the value that you're investing in is not always reflected in the share price. We aren't on the NASDAQ yet, so big investment firms can't join in. But believe me, they're all talking about fintech, blockchain, and crypto. And Humbl is all three of those things. So at the point in time that we do uplist, that's when your big institutions can come in. And do you know what else big institutions are going to want to see? They're going to want to see revenue. Where are we going to get that revenue? NFTs and ticketing. Also, because of the reverse split, uplist is going to take a little longer in the sense that they'll want to see, because I called TD Ameritrade and I asked them about this. They said that they'll want to see a couple months or a couple quarters of financials because of the reverse split. So that minimum stock price that you need to uplist isn't going to apply in this case because of the reverse split. They have to show revenue. So that's why the pivot. Now, the technology for peer-to-peer, it's been ready. So it's not like it's not ready, but regulatory and compliance in the United States is a thing. And Brian really wants to launch in the United States instead of going to Singapore, as he said on the conference call. So that's just going to take time, and we need to get that revenue cranked out.
The good thing is, when you're in 160 countries and you're doing what Humbl's doing, I think that revenue, will not only, I don't want to say come with ease, but, I definitely trust this company and the sector and industry that they're in to knock it out of the park. And, I'm a huge believer in Brian Foote. Again, if you guys don't know, Brian Foote's history, you guys need to go look it up. Or you can go on Rebecca's timeline because you've talked about Brian Foote a lot. And I really believe in this management team. I really believe in their focus. I really believe in their drive. I like when people like Rob Luna, shout out to Rob Luna, who went in there with his team and his CFAs and did a lot of work, did a lot of due diligence, kind of validated and verified that everything the company was putting out was true, and they weren't being fraudulent about anything. And I think that is important just because there are some OTCs out there that, might not be, completely transparent or completely honest about the numbers they report. And to be fair, there's companies, even on the actual NASDAQ and on the stock market that, kind of don't do a great job of reporting the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But with that being said, I really like it. I like the story. I like the mission. I like the path of this company. And then you also referenced earlier, you came from a call and you have even more exciting news. I don't know how much more exciting news my heart can take, but okay, what else is going on here?
All right. Before I go to that, I want to read this quote that is going to illustrate the power of blockchain. And how we are going to change the face of banking. So, right now, people often have to succumb to predatory rates of 7% to move their money around. Well, this was pointed out. One of the largest banks in the world with 240,000 employees, offices in 38 countries, and a $4 trillion balance sheet takes 1 to 2 business days to move $10,000 to London, with fees ranging from $45 to hundreds of dollars. Meanwhile, a decentralized software program with no employees and no offices can move $1 billion in 10 minutes for the cost of a cappuccino. I mean, wrap your head around that. That's what blockchain is. It is person-to-person transaction, and it's instant. So when trillions are pouring over the borders, as far as moving money from country to country, and PayPal takes days, and we're going to come in and do it instantly with half the fees. Just imagine the revenue potential there. Even now with the merchant pay, I get frustrated sometimes when people say, when are we going to do anything? We are already in 6 countries where you can pay a merchant over the border. Square can't do that. Square's domestic only. And look at Square's share price, right? So we can already instantly send somebody over a border cash, and merchants on Twitter are saying it's costing me 1/3 what PayPal does.
That's a game changer right there. That really is. And I think people don't understand how important those fees are. But from a merchant perspective, from a consumer, perspective, those fees really add up, especially when you're talking about large, transactions. Earlier we talked about real estate. But like when you're doing like even 2-3%, if you're talking about $300,000 transaction, $500,000 transaction, the difference between 2 and 3 and 4% is actually very substantial. And then when you talk about the frequency of it, when you're frequently doing transactions, again, those fees really add up. And I think people also need to be more cognizant of that as well. And why, again, another great thing about what we're witnessing here.
PayPal charges like 5 and 6% to move money internationally. That's a big fee. 6% is a lot of money.
It is. It really is, because I hear it a lot, from a lot of real estate agents who do, business or, just, small businesses in general that do business with customers abroad. And sometimes there is a lot of frustration, like, okay, this is the price, but now I have to send the money here and I have to do that. And that can cause a lot of friction, and that could cause a lot of headaches as well. Again, especially for small businesses and, again, even consumers. And so hopefully this is, just another way to kind of alleviate that process right there.
Well, the new piece of information that I came across on the Golden 8 Spaces this morning was you should follow at Golden 8. He's really, really sharp. And I talked about this morning how I was very interested in India because PayPal pulled out of India, and that is the second most populous country in the world. And to me, that's a huge opportunity there for Humbl, especially because of that DIPL partnership that has been reported. Well, Golden Apes found that the whole country of India is doing something called Operation Smart Grid, and I haven't even had the chance to look it up, but basically where the whole country is moving to blockchain, and guess who's on their list? DIPL. So we have partnerships in place. We have Bexus Bank, which does Brazil, and we have Pan Asia covered. So it's not like we're starting from scratch. We already have partnerships around the globe, and we're already in 161 countries for ETFs investing, and we're in 6 countries for merchant pay. So it's coming.
It is, and we talked about it earlier. It's just, maintaining that long-term horizon and that long-term focus. And we talked earlier with Amazon. Amazon fell from 100 down to 13, down to 6, back up to 100. Here we are at like 3,500. And we've seen it with everything. I mean, even Bitcoin. People want to talk about, Bitcoin's 50,000, whatever. But for those of us who've been invested in Bitcoin, for years now, we remember 2017. We remember the crashes. We remember, crashing down from 17 down all the way down to like 3, then coming back up, then quote unquote crashing again. And the media telling us over and over that it's going to 0. Bitcoin's going to 0. Ethereum's going to 0. Crypto's useless. Bitcoin's useless. And, we remember those wild rides. And so I think with any great like generational investment, I think with any great long-term investment, you're going to see a lot of volatility, but eventually, I think as long as the company continues to do, what they're trying to do and they execute in the manner that they're executing now, I don't really see the issue. But I do agree. You mentioned something earlier, and I think we have to bring that up again. I think a lot of people now are in need of money for whatever reason, because either boosted unemployment benefits are running out, because inflation's kind of catching up to them, whatever the case may be. And now a lot of people are like, man, I have all these expenses coming up, and I was really hoping that my money was going to double and triple and double and triple and double and triple like 400 times by now, and it's taking a little bit longer than I initially expected, and now I need this money, and now I have to pull it out, and now I'm frustrated because I bought this investment higher than it is today, and now I need the money today, and now I have to pull it out, and now they're very, upset. And I think the ones who are, maybe not in need of that money, right? They're the ones taking that opportunity, and they're like, okay, I'll buy those shares. I'll buy these shares. And it's unfortunate, but I do think that is something we are seeing play out in the marketplace. And it doesn't help that, in the OTC market, and we've talked about this on the first interview, sometimes that's OTC life for you. Sometimes these things will stay flat for a while. Sometimes they'll explode 400% in a day. So, and I remember Humbl, there was a time when Humbl stock would go up like 35% every single day. It felt like, I remember those times. And then there's times where it feels like it goes down 5% for like 500 straight days. IRAs. It feels like that. It is volatile. It is a wild ride. But again, if you're having a long-term horizon and a long-term focus, I mean, what is not to love about this company, this management team, and this investment?
Right, and so many different revenue streams, right? I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I go back to this and I'm thinking, okay, so right now Square is $270 a share, and all they do is payments. They don't do cross-border payments, and when you make a payment, you don't have the opportunity to rate the merchant. The merchant is not on a map, all within the app. On top of that, you have Humbl Financial, which does investing. And really good investing when you're looking at the returns that people are getting, especially when you think, oh, a strong IRA is 7%, and just look at the gains people are posting on Twitter of over 40% for the price of a Starbucks every month. I mean, that's crazy. Then there's the marketplace, which is like Etsy, where you have a lot of different little merchants, and that's going to grow over time as well. So I love that there's multiple revenue streams, and I also like that we're not dependent on the United States for success because we're in 161 countries. And when the peer-to-peer rolls out, we'll be in over 100 countries. As it shows on the roadmap, they list out that like Europe is next for merchant pay. Right now we're in 6 countries, and then Europe is next, and there's a bunch of those. I don't have the map right in front of me, but so the fact that we have so many revenue streams is really, really exciting.
Yeah, hitting on that revenue stream and the stock price, for me and a lot of the researchers that help me with when it comes to investing and my research team, for me it's just the market cap. I feel like the market cap is so tiny and is not really reflective of the company or their potential. I mean, I just looked it up. I think it's about a $900 million market cap. So the company is not even worth $1 billion. Like, it's not really even worth $1 billion. And the reason that really stands out to me is because I look at, I'm invested in SPACs, even after they de-SPAC or, right after an LOI comes out, I'm really big into SPACs and in the SPAC game. And I look at some of these SPACs that are coming to market and, after the DA comes out, the LOI comes out, and I look at some of these companies that are coming to the market through a SPAC, or some companies that have already, debuted on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange after de-SPACing and getting all the money from the SPAC. And some of these companies, it really blows my mind how much of a premium they're trading at, what type of valuations they're trading at, some of the multiples, it really blows my mind. Like, I don't want to, call out any names, but I'll pick an easy one. I'll look at a company like a Nikola. I'll look at a company like a Lordstown. And I'm not saying the stock's going to zero, but what I am saying is you have companies out here on the NASDAQ, literally on the NASDAQ, that have $0 in revenue, potentially could go bankrupt like any day. We really don't know. I know Lordstown is trying to avoid bankruptcy to save their life over here. And they're trading at over $1 billion. I mean, America, it's not that hard. Go on any financial website and you guys can see, you can go on Google. Matter of fact, just ask your Alexa. Even your Alexa might know this. Just look up some of these companies that are coming to the stock market, and they either, one, don't have a product today, at all. They don't have any revenue today at all. They might have a lot of cash, and hopefully that, helps them get to the finish line, so to speak, or the starting line, really. And some of them will not make any money for 3 or 4 years, let alone become cash flow positive. Some of these companies won't be cash flow positive for 9, 10, 11 years, but some of them won't, literally, they will not receive or get any revenue for 3, 4 years. And, I'm a long-term investor in some of them, so I understand the risk and the volatility associated with them. But we could look at someone like these flying cars, so to speak, like a Joby that's, partnered with Uber and what they're trying to do at Joby. And the list goes on. There's a lot of flying car companies, it feels like, trying to come onto the stock market. You look at a lot of these electric vehicle battery companies, like a QuantumScape, for example. Again, QuantumScape has 0 revenue this year, has 0 revenue next year, has zero revenue the year after that. QuantumScape won't even make any money till like 2026. I mean, are you kidding me here? And then you have other ones that don't even have a product yet. Like, you know, again, I don't want to pick on too many of these stocks, but when you look at like a Nikola or Lordstown, I mean, they're literally out here that they either don't have anything to sell you today, or they're rolling a truck down, you know, downhill, and like they're trading at $1 billion, $2 billion, $4 billion. Some of these flying car companies that will not have a physical product for like 5 more years are trading at like $5 billion market caps. And I look at a Humbl that is not only already getting revenue, but they're executing. They're in 160 countries. They have partnerships with everyone that's important in every region of the world. They're involved in the fastest growing sector in finance right now when it comes to crypto, when it comes to Bitcoin, when it comes to crypto ETFs, when it comes to peer-to-peer, when it comes to blockchain. Again, we are such in the early innings of this still. And I look at everything the company does. They're always executing. Brian Foote tries to be as, you know, transparent as he can. And I look at all of this, and they're not even trading at $1 billion. And yes, that is in part because they're not on the NASDAQ. I do believe you'll see a ton of institutional support and a ton of institutional buying when that happens. But until that point, we're talking about a company that's less than $1 billion in market cap. And I look at some of these other companies that have zero revenue, zero products, won't have it for a long time, might go bankrupt from now until then, will probably have to dilute shareholders 400 times just to stay alive and get the capital they need, just to get to the starting line, let alone the finish line. And I look at all of that and I'm like, you're kidding me. How are there some companies out here with ridiculous valuations and ridiculous market caps with $0 in revenue, haven't done a thing other than make a really cool, you know, sketch using Adobe or something? Like, that's all they really done on the investor presentation is show you what it could look like. They don't have a product yet. And I look at Humbl executing, firing on all cylinders. And if we're going to use the word TAM, for those of you guys who understand total addressable market, QuantumScape has a big TAM. Flying cars has a big TAM. Electric vehicle batteries has a big TAM. Electric vehicles like Lucid have a big TAM. Yes, they do have a big total addressable market. So does blockchain. So does crypto. So does Bitcoin. So does financial technology. But Humbl receives none of that premium compared to a lot of other competitors out there. And I really feel like if you're buying this company under $1 billion market cap, you're really getting a steal right here. Like, this is a steal. Like, in some ways, and I don't want to put this in a bad way, in some ways, I'm almost shocked no one's tried to buy Humbl yet and just buy them outright and just let them take over. Like, it really astonishes me that they're trading at such a cheap market cap, at least in my opinion.
I'm giving you a standing ovation. Do you hear that? That was great, what you just said. And I actually would like to pick on Nikola because they burnt me really bad. That was my first newbie mistake. I got so excited about that company. And what they launched on the NASDAQ at like $30 without a real product. And they went up to $95. And like an idiot, I didn't take profits because I was so sure it was going to keep going up and up and up. And it didn't. It crashed and burned, and we all know the scandal involved there. So you're exactly right. I mean, speaking of valuations, I mean, what this company is doing is absolutely incredible. And you know what we haven't touched on? We haven't even touched on the social aspect because we're talking about the younger crowd, right? They're all into Venmo and Snapchat is instant messaging, right? All the college kids love Snapchat. Well, if you look on the patent applications for peer-to-peer online, it specifically talks about how you can add friends, invite friends, send friends text messages, and also how you can establish a list of who you've recently paid so you can very quickly pay them. You know, just click on your favorites that you send money to all the time, like your kid or your mom or your dad. But the great thing about this is it's like, okay, so I get that instant text message feature. I get the instant send money feature like Venmo, but I can do something Venmo can't. I can send it to England. I can send it to my friend in England and say, hey, here's $5 in your currency, and you can go get tea and crumpets or whatever it is at your coffee shops over there. So instantly, you know, so even that, again, the multiple revenue streams are just absolutely mind-blowing.
They really are, they really are. And I like all of the sectors and industries and pathways that this company can apply their technology and, apply their platform to. I really believe it's endless. Like, earlier you mentioned like the esports thing. I really didn't think about it from an NFT perspective, how, it can be applied to gaming. It can be applied to anime. It can be applied to things like that. And, by the way, guys, if you don't think anime is a big deal in Asia, you're living under a rock somewhere. Like, esports is growing. Anime is never going away. The importance of them are never going away. I mean, you mentioned Pokemon Go. Look, I like Pokemon as a kid, just like the next guy, but I'm not going to run around here and try to catch a Pikachu. But I do understand there are like a bunch of people out here literally every day on the weekends at the park when I'm with my kids, and they're still trying to catch them. And you're right. That NFT sector, could be a massive opportunity for the company. Then you talk about with like virtual reality and things you can do there. I mean, I really feel like we're such in the early innings, and I feel like sometimes people are missing the big picture there. And I guess we can kind of finish off on this and let you, kind of to speak to Humbl Nation here, because I know they've asked you a lot of questions. They vented their frustration to you. Sometimes they'll even blame you and say, Rebecca, it's all your fault. You're the reason the stock's down right now. It's all on you. And I know you probably heard some stuff like that. But I'll let you address Humbl Nation here, because I feel like there's some that are a little bit cautious, some that are uneasy, some that are, very bullish, and they're just buying Humbl stock for the very first time, so they don't understand what all the big fuss is about. Then there's some long-term investors that watched our last interview that own millions of shares. Shout out to everyone who owns over 1 million shares of Humbl. I didn't know there was that many people that do, but holy crap, there's a lot of investors that own a lot of shares of Humbl. And I'll let you address them, because I feel like they're, again, some of them might be uneasy. Some of them might be, pessimistic. Some of them might be optimistic. But I feel like this is a moment where they have to kind of like rebalance and woo-saw and understand the opportunity that's in front of them, and understand that this isn't a 5-day investment. If you want a 5-day investment, go buy GameStop and AMC and go be, one of the little monkeys. Go ahead and do that. But other than that, this is a multi-year, investment opportunity ahead of us.
Well, thank you, Miguel. I appreciate that opportunity. I would say that I'm just like you. Look, when COVID hit, I lost 95% of my business because I do closed captioning, and mostly with college students. And what happened? The colleges shut down. And so I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to make ends meet? And ironically, the only class that didn't cancel was a financial analysis class. And I learned how to trade thanks to my student. And I got into trading. And you quickly learn from mistakes that you and you alone are responsible for clicking that buy button or that sell button. And when you are relying on somebody else's DD, which you hear that term a lot, it means due diligence, which is basically research. It's scary. It's scary because you're hoping that somebody else knows what the hell they're talking about, right? Whereas if you do your own research, which I did night and day on Humbl and on the sector, and I don't just mean in the United States, I mean globally, and you understand the innovation, you understand that we are moving towards a digital economy, mobile wallets, financial technology, and that you have somebody like Brian Foote, who has 20 years of experience in financial technology and has won a lot of innovation awards. He is not a newbie, and that this was designed after Alipay, which is very, very successful in Asia. It gives you confidence to hold. So I suggest having long stocks, like for me, Humbl's a 10-year hold, 5-year minimum, and I'll probably always keep at least half, because I'm looking at this as generational wealth for me, my kids, my grandkids. And so I don't get stressed out by the day-to-day prices. I just go on a walk. Sometimes you got to turn off Twitter if it gets to be too negative and stressful for you. And then I have other plays that are short-term for me. that I'm trying to make money off of, and that's how I buy more Humbl, or that's how I pay for my kids' tuition and those shorter term plays. So it just takes experience, but my greatest advice is to be patient and understand that it's really painful to sell a stock too early and then realize, wow, I missed the boat, and it goes 10 times the value. So for me, I am not selling Humbl. There's no way. I am adding. My other plays are so that I can add, because I see the future, I see where it's going, and I believe in the leadership. So I would say, do your own research, and I could send you so many articles. You feel free to DM me on Twitter. I do try to get to them. And I'm not a financial advisor, but to me, with all these different revenue streams, with the leadership, there's no way I'm selling. I'm going to look to other plays to make me money.
I agree. And I'll just say on my ending segue, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm more of a motivator, if anything. But I'll say my biggest regret, having been investing for several years now, my biggest regret has always been the same. And that's that I didn't buy more. Now, have I bought in stocks that like really sucked and made me like really pissed off and stuff like that? Absolutely, I have. But fortunately, I never make anything like 99% of my portfolio. I try to, remain balanced as I can and try to be diversified into different, industries and different sectors, whether it's, microchips with NVIDIA and AMD, semiconductors, whether it's with EVs, whether it's with crypto, whether it's with this next thing, I try to be balanced, and I try to spread my money into the fastest growing industries and sectors that I believe have long runways and long potential ahead of them, along with some strong factors. But with that being said, most of my most common regret as an investor has always been not buying more. And I can talk about, having, 250 shares of Tesla. That's great. But my biggest regret is not buying it more, 6-7 years ago. My biggest regret was not buying, more Bitcoin when it was trading, a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, each step of the way. I wish I owned more Bitcoins than I do now. I wish I owned more Tesla stock than I do now. I remember buying NEO at $3, and all my subscribers remember the story, but I remember buying NEO at $3 and telling my subscribers to do it last year. And I believed in the company. I believed in the long term. I believed, that, what, right now they only sell 5,000 cars a year, but they're in a country with like 2 billion people. I think one day they're going to sell more than 5,000 cars a year. So I believe in NEO long term, and I told people to buy it as a $3 stock. And my biggest regret was not buying more. Now again, some will say, well, what happens if you buy too much of a stock and it goes downhill and it tanks and it ends up being the next Nikola? Yeah, that can happen too. But that's why I'm not putting 99% of my money into like, one thing and one thing only, trying to be balanced, trying to be diversified. But again, if you do the proper DD, like you're saying, and you do the due diligence, you do the research, you're reading the articles, you're reading the analyst notes, you're listening to the earnings call. Earnings calls are so huge, people. People don't understand that. I feel like it's so underrated. People do not listen to the earnings calls as much as they should. There is so much gold, so much great information on earnings calls. But when you listen to the earnings calls, you look at what the analysts, takeaways from it were. You look at your own notes from it. You look at the revenue that's being reported. You look at the TAM. You look at the tech. You look at the platform. You look at the management, the CEO, top down. You look at their ability to execute. You look at all of those things. You look at market cap. You look at the float. You look at volume activity. You look at options activity. Once you do all of this research and you unequivocally believe a company and their ability to grow into the future, and you think that's a great 5-year investment, you have to pull the trigger on it, because 9 times out of 10, your biggest regret will always be not buying more. And for me, I wish I had bought even more Bitcoins back in the day. I wish I bought more Tesla stock back in the day. I wish I bought more NEO stock back in the day. I remember NVIDIA being like $100 before the stock split, and then it runs all the way to like 5, 6, 7, 8, 900. I remember buying AMD when it was $13 and feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to buy too much because, what if this happens and what if that happens? But again, if you're balanced and you're diversified, you're going to be okay. And as long as you're doing the due diligence and you're doing the research and you believe in the company you're investing in, you're going to be okay 9 times out of 10. And now I look back at it and I'm like, holy crap, why didn't I buy more AMD at 13? Why didn't I pull the trigger more when the price was so much cheaper? If I knew in my head at the time it was going to be a long-term investment. And again, there might be volatility in the next 5 days and the next 6 months, but I'm not investing for the next 5 days or the next 6 months. I'm investing for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, because I plan to live a long time and I plan to create not just personal wealth, but generational wealth that'll last not just past my time on earth, but that will last my entire kid's lifetime, my grandkids' lifetime, my great-grandkids' lifetime. That's what I want to create. That's what I want to establish. That's what I look forward to doing with my life. And in order to do that, I have to remember that everything's a long-term investment. Always remember, and don't put all your money into like one thing. Unless you don't have a lot of money, because if you only have $300 in Robinhood, then go ahead and put it all on one thing. But other than that, like, I really feel like those are some of the keys to success. And I think as long as you keep a long-term horizon, and I think the last thing I'll say is too is don't forget what the alternative is. The alternative is you don't invest at all in the stock market and you just basically stay paycheck to paycheck and kind of struggling every month to get by and putting all your money into a savings account that earns you 0% interest and, basically stay in the same position that you were the last 5 years of your life. So it's either that or you invest and you try to compound your money, because compounding and compound interest is one of the greatest things that we can have here in this country, along with many other things, obviously. But in a lot of other countries, they might not let you invest, or there might not be as much accessibility to investment. And here there is, just abundant opportunity to invest, and there's abundant of freedom to invest and pursue financial freedom and financial independence. And in order to do that, you're going to have to take some risks along the way. But again, like you say, as long as you're doing a long-term time horizon, 9 times out of 10, it's going to work out. And I really think right now in the early stages of one of the greatest revolutions we've ever seen in the world since the Industrial Revolution, what we are seeing in fintech, what we are seeing in crypto, what we are seeing in blockchain, what we are seeing in financial technology, what we are seeing in e-commerce, what we are seeing in global expansion, like these trends and these mega cyclical trends are not just here to stay, but they're here to explode and continue to explode for years and years to come. And I think that's what I would say.
Well, that is some solid wisdom. Your listeners are really blessed to have you. I think you're especially right about listening to the CCs. You've got to hear Brian every single time I listen to him. There's not a doubt in my mind, and it just gives me strength. And you can see his heart, and you can see his authenticity, and also not just generational wealth, but we're creating a legacy. We're showing our kids how to go out of your comfort zone and to have a global perspective, and how to take chances, and how to learn from your failures, and how those are our best teachers. And then finally, when you say a revolution, you're right. Forbes calls blockchain the fourth industrial revolution. So you are spot on, and it's been an honor to talk with you today. Thank you so much, and love to all the Humbl Nation.
All right, thank you so much for coming on, Rebecca. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Queen of Humbl Nation. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to obviously have you back. We can't wait to talk about this company in the future, because their future really is unlimited. And I really do believe we're going to look back at these interviews, the first one and this one. And I think we're going to look back at it 2 years from now and 3 years from now. And you and me are going to be doing an interview. You might be retired in some massive mansion somewhere around the world by then, but we're going to find a way to do an interview, and we're going to look back at these interviews in time and say, wow, you remember when we talked about them trying to go into real estate? You remember when we talked about this? You remember when we said this could happen? You remember when we said NFTs were going to be a big deal? We're going to laugh, and a lot of the investors are going to laugh, because we're going to remember these moments in time, these moments in history when you could have gotten on the ground floor of something, and then years later, the company basically accomplished what they set out to accomplish, and shareholders, long-term shareholders, will be rewarded. And I can't wait for those moments in the future, because they are coming, and we will look back at this, and I think that's going to be something we say, man, I wish I actually somehow bought more shares of it. So thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to talk to you next time, and thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Miguel. You have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.